What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Anime Version Podcast, and today we are discussing the end of Attack on Titan. The final chapter has dropped. It's insanity, and it's very controversial, so it'll be very fun to get into it, see all of our initial thoughts. I have with me my co-host, Briggs. What up, Briggs?
What up, man? Oh my God, what a journey. What a journey. I
What
can't
a
believe
fucking journey.
this is the final episode of the Attack on Titan version. It's blowing my
As we're
mind.
Yes, that too. As we're doing this live on Twitch, we also have people in the chat saying hashtag thank you Isayama, and I want that to be like the overarching message here. He's done an amazing job. He's worked hard and produced almost 12 years of an amazing story. So thank you very much, Isayama. We also have the Attack on Titan Chad here. Ray, what up?
What up, guys? Happy to be here again. So much to talk about.
Dude, it's
And
crazy that you started
yeah,
this series, what, like 2 months ago? I don't know, just
Yeah,
two
something
roughly,
months
like that.
sounds like a good ballpark
whatever,
estimate.
whatever roughly it was, and now you're reading the final chapter with everyone that's like a huge fan of the series. All of the
Exactly.
casuals, all the normies. No, I'm just kidding. But like all the other guys that are watching the anime, like, you're ahead of everyone. You are officially the
Woo!
AOT Chad, bro. I'm proud of you.
I know, thanks, guys.
And it's
It's awesome.
wild. Like Attack on Titan truly is one of those series that just got better and better and better. And like, I'm excited to talk about these last couple of chapters or last 10 or so chapters.
Exactly. Like this, the one thing you can't say about the ending is that like they finished slow. Like this
Hmm.
was
No,
fast
not at
paced, the
all.
battling was crazy, and I can't wait to get into it. Ray, initial thoughts. And by the way, this is pretty much for the final chapter. Pretty much me, Briggs, and Ray are all virgins in this case
Dude,
because
I,
we
I, re-
just
I read it
experienced it for the
5 minutes
first time.
ago. I
Yeah,
literally
that's
read, like,
funny.
I started reading, I just did a 24-hour stream chat. So I started reading it as I was dozing off. I'm like, I don't have the mental capacity for this last chapter right now. I set my alarm, I woke up, I literally read it, and I'm like, fuck, I need to read this again. I need to read this again. So I'm rereading it again as I'm calling the boys and getting ready for this podcast. And before we jump into everything, I just want to say that the anime version is not over. We're going to be jumping over to another series with a different version next time, and it's going to continue to swap. The anime version, this train has no brakes. We're doing ReZero, not next week, but the week after, because we want to give Too Spooky some time to watch the anime. I'm super excited.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Briggs, for adding that, and we'll remind you at the end too. So the anime version from the beginning was the idea was we're gonna jump from anime to anime, and yes, ReZero is next, and we're gonna be watching the first 12 episodes. Briggs, does that
Yes,
sound good?
first 12 episodes.
Yeah, first 12 episodes. Not next week, but the week after.
Yep.
Very excited for that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's dive into some Attack on Titan. Oh my God, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I'd say
Ray,
Ray just take us from where we left off
Yeah.
and into the new world.
Yeah. Do you want to do just like general thoughts first?
Yeah, we can.
All right.
I
I
mean,
just want
yeah, for sure. Go
to.
ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I took Briggs's advice. I don't know if you said this last week or the week
That's your
before.
first mistake, bro. Never take
No, I mean, he
it.
had good advice, like, because I was getting frustrated in terms of who to side with. And for these last chapters, I just sat back and I'm like, you know what? Just let the plot take me where it will. Like,
yeah,
don't side with characters. Just let it happen.
there
So,
doesn't need to be a side, especially in Attack
absolutely.
on Titan. There tends to be. I mean, other than maybe Eren wanting to wipe out all of humanity, there tends to not be a super right and wrong, who like which side is better type of thing. You kind of just have to just
Mhm.
enjoy what Isayama created.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And as I said in my chapter review for Attack on Titan, yes, definitely Aaron's plan was messed up, right? To massacre 80% of the population. But the alternative plans were the King Carl Fritz, who wanted to just wait and then not fight back as their people get massacred, right? Completely wiped out. That's obviously messed up too. And Zeke's plan was also to slowly wipe out the entire race. Another messed up plan, right? So there was no non-messed up
Mhm.
plan that made any sense. I just want to point that in the defense of Aaron's actions.
Yeah,
But obviously, you can't defend any of these actions when it comes to how fucked up they are.
it's kind of messed up how like pretty much the only options that like people were fighting for at this time were pretty much genocide or like, well, in different approaches.
Or
Aaron's was
anti, or
I
like, yeah, go ahead.
yes, well, different, not even genocide. It was just like eventually they wanted to stop, like for example, Zeke with euthanization. He's just like eventually, if we stop having kids, there will be no more Eldians who could give birth to children who could turn into Titans. Problem solved. Carl Fritz is just kind of like, I'm going to be a pacifist. We'll hide behind, within the walls. We are sinners, and if they attack us, so we deserve it, type of thing. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And then you have Aaron, who's like all about freedom. Be like, all right, well, I'm going to protect ourselves. Let's kill all of them. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
insane mentalities.
And Zeke, in his defense, like obviously I don't side with his plan either, but in his defense, like he took the Carl Fritz plan and made it less horrifying for the Eldians.
Yes, he
because
did.
they would slowly, like ideally, live out their lives in peace until they die of old age, rather than the Carl Fritz plan of getting like brutally destroyed when the enemies come to the island. So yeah, Zeke's plan, I don't like it. I don't like the entire Eldians being wiped out. But in his defense, like there were worse plans. His was like a compromise of different plans.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ray. General thoughts. You took this in from you were like impartial. You weren't really rooting
Just
anyone on.
impartial, yeah.
What did you think of these chapters?
Yeah, I agree that the ending, there was a lot there, and I'm super excited when it eventually comes out to see the anime because I'd love to see, those scenes where they're around Aaron's body with the bones there. That's going to be so fun to be able to watch. But even those few episodes that we started with, it was a bit slow at times, but I really did appreciate those smaller conversations, and we kind of talked about that last time in terms of characters starting to be able to empathize more with each other. And so I actually really appreciated those conversations, those, flashbacks at times. And I guess some of them would be moments within the path, right? That are outside of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, some of the conversations
exactly.
were, yeah.
So, I mean, I enjoyed that, even though, again, the beginning was a little bit slow at times. But yeah, the ending there was just absolute craziness.
Wait, what did you think was slow exactly?
Well, even like, okay, so we could start at the very beginning. I could take you through when
All right,
they're
take us
at the
through.
harbor.
We're in the past
It's funny
right
you
now.
say slow. I think one of my complaints for the last two chapters felt a little bit. I felt like I wanted
Rushed.
more from it, and it felt rushed. I'm like, if this was expanded a little bit more, like the concept itself was amazing, and I still think it was
Yes.
quite good. But
We'll,
I guess
we'll
get into it. We'll get into it.
We'll get into the specifics of the last chapter because I too, spoiler alert, thought it was rushed. But yeah, let's build up to it.
Yeah, so the parts I thought were slow right at the beginning, chapter 128. They're sitting around there spying from the harbor. They're watching the Jaegerist, and there's just a lot of conversation going on between Annie, between Reiner, between like Mikasa, Jean, all of them. And you could tell, like, even though they formed this alliance, that their ideologies are still different. Annie just wants to go in there and be like, let's just attack them. Who cares about the Jaegerists? Others are like, well, we have a relationship with them. They were part of people that we trained with in the past. Like, we want to avoid bloodshed as much as possible. So there wasn't necessarily as much action at the very beginning. And then obviously near the end of the episode, we get, the Titan transformations, and we get Mikasa breaking in over there. And that's when the violence starts. But I found there was waiting at times, even when they end up going on that airship. There's a lot of just waiting around and talking at times. But then, like you mentioned later on, those later episodes, there is a lot of, like the tempo just picks up crazy.
Yeah. And I don't even want to say that talking is less good than fighting because
No,
a lot of the
action.
Yeah, a lot of the conversations were very important.
Absolutely.
Like the fact that they had to get out like against each other, all of the things they were thinking, like when Jean called out let's say Reiner for what he did to Marco and punched him and hit Gabby and all of that stuff. Like all of that is very necessary to get out of to just get out before they actually work together, because if they just let that linger and repress it, like who knows when that would bubble up. And it shows that even though they have such a fucked up history together, they can move beyond it.
Oh, I totally agree. Like even General McGath there breaking down and talking about his past and just being able to see like the bigger picture.
Yeah, sorry to laugh, but so Bush Gaming says Hanji basically committed suicide though, which I kind of thought, not gonna lie, I kind of thought that as well. It's like, what did she really accomplish? Like, did she really slow down the rumbling? Like, not really.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I mean, I know what they were going for. It's like, oh, she's gonna stay behind to like give them time to take off and get away, type of thing. But like, they
Yeah, but
didn't
like,
really. I guess it's because we're reading a manga, so I would
yeah, we'll see how
imagine
they do it in the
once
anime.
you
Yeah,
adapt it, it's like they could really make it maybe feel a little bit more like there was that she stopped them from getting to the ship or whatever.
yeah. For example, if there was like one like right there, and she stopped that one, and it kind of like fell, and it slowed down some ones behind it, and giving it like a little extra time. But yeah, in the manga, it was like, bro, like she is not slowing down the rumbling.
But here, yeah, here's the thing though. I mean, I think she knew she was toast, but the others were going to step in, like Reiner, and waste their energy on these Titans. So I think it was just her being like, "Yeah, you just push forward with the plan," and that way, just convincing them to just continue on. Because if not, one of them would have stepped in. It could have ruined the plan later on. So I don't know. I just feel it was just her doing the noble thing there and saying, "Just push on." Because if she didn't, someone else, maybe more important, would have, and then that would have.
I mean,
No,
it's
it was
actually so
definitely noble
sad,
as
but I
fuck.
feel like
Yeah.
what we're talking about right now kind of summarizes some of my thoughts on these final chapters. It's like the concept itself of Hanji sacrificing herself to allow everyone to move forward and her reuniting kind of with everyone else that's kind of been in the same shoes. Erwin, who died and gave up his dreams, and everyone else who sacrificed themselves in the past. Like I love the concept of that and allowing everyone to push forward towards the end game. But it's like it could have been handled a little bit better. It could have
Yeah.
been handled better.
Yeah, and that'll be a recurring theme. Like, this isn't a perfect ending. I wouldn't say that, but definitely, like Briggs says, there is a lot of good stuff about it. Sam, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs. You are a mad lad, and we always appreciate you. Continue on, Ray.
Yeah, so I was just talking about the conversations. I appreciated like McGath basically breaking down and saying he has blood on his hands, and
Yeah, I was like, fuck McGath, bro. When he was saying that shit,
yeah, but
I was like, I know he was just needed to get it out and stuff like that, but I was like, yo, fuck you, bro. Like, who are you to say this?
I don't know. But I mean, he even there at one point ends up wanting to stay back with that other dude who was the guy who used to train them. I forget his name now. It starts with an S. But I mean, they even end up sacrificing themselves um, for the group to be able to push on. But anyways, I just enjoyed those small conversations. Like there's one point Reiner even empathizes with Aaron's situation, the difficulty of his situation, that being, and the conversations between Reiner, between Annie too, where there were some heartfelt moments there. And it's tough because we talked about that will beforehand and how it's so important to have a will. And when we find out that most likely, like Aaron has killed a lot of their family, even though we find out later on they are alive, like to be able to continue to push on when you don't have that why must have been super tough for them, like Annie. And that's why she obviously
Yeah,
kind of
like why the
takes a
fuck
step
is
back.
exactly? It's like why Mikasa and Armin? They don't have family to save there. They're doing it for the rest of humanity, right? And perhaps to see Eren again and try to stop him, right, for his sake. But yeah, that was one of the things I had trouble with when Armin goes along with killing people he grew up with and were his friends in order to save the rest of humanity that wants him dead. Right? I'm like, and Connie like killed him too,
You
and
know what's
it's like,
funny? I think that didn't bother me even a little bit. You could just see how much Armin has changed over these years. It's like he's willing to make sacrifices for, like, at the end of the day, he realizes they're the only people that can stop Eren or want to have be able to have a conversation with Eren at this point and stop him from literally killing all of humanity. And it's just like, what was Armin's line? Because I think they flash back to that at some point where it's like, sometimes the right choice is not always the easiest one, type of thing.
I mean,
I felt it was really painful to watch Armin do it, and that's why I kind of loved it.
all right, fair enough, but we will talk about like the final chapter eventually, and there is some kind of like mixed signals going on with Armin and his decision here.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll
Yeah,
talk about it.
Armin, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. That was a little problematic for me at the end,
Yeah, so
but
we'll get into that though for
exactly.
sure. We'll hold that off.
Okay.
We'll hold off on
Yeah.
that right now.
So yeah, it seems like the first couple chapters, the main kind of mission they have is to be able to get that aircraft, whatever you want to call it, moving. So then they could get closer to Aaron, and we have the conflict with the Jaegerists who catch on with the plan. And you see Flock there taking on a pretty big role. Like he's almost kind of the Irwin-esque leader of the
I mean, that's
Jaegerists,
an
except
interesting. Yeah, that's
not as
interesting.
like intent. Like I don't know. I'm not
Not as
comparing him with
epic,
Irwin.
obviously.
Yeah,
He is
Yeah,
taking on a
exactly.
leader role for the Jaegerists, right?
Yeah. So,
And I think it was an important part for Flock. Like, I'm glad you mentioned it because up to this point, like, you could sometimes say that he was just being a dick, but here he straight up was ready to sacrifice his life for the cause that he believed in. So I think Flock's ending kind of respects his character, even though if you disagree with his actions, at least he was willing to die
Yeah.
for Aaron's vision.
Clearly, he believed in Aaron and his, yeah, like you said, his vision for trying to wipe out everyone else for their freedom, type of thing.
Yeah. And like I did hear, like you guys didn't necessarily, I know Briggs didn't watch anybody else and like didn't get any thoughts about anybody else.
Yeah, I am
And there were
literally my own thoughts right now. I have not watched a single YouTube video, anyone talking about it. I really don't know any I got spoiled one thing, but like I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I literally read the chapter right before going live, the last one.
exactly. No, yeah, we'll get to it later because that's a bit later. But yeah, carry on, Ray.
sure. So, yeah, that's the major kind of thing driving the plot at the beginning, trying to get on that aircraft. And yeah, there are issues that happen. Like even when Flock appears, he doesn't have an interest to kill like the Eldians. He shoots exactly at the aircraft, so then it interrupts the attempt to stop Aaron. So I mean, I don't even think is he like this, killer or anything. I don't think so. He's just wanting the plan to execute well with Aaron. So
Exactly. I
so
do think
once,
it was
yeah,
fucked up when he beat up Shadis, right?
yeah,
That was his lowest moment, in my opinion, just like actions wise, because it seems completely unnecessary. But yeah, his ending and the fact that he was just trying to finish the mission and not kill people out of revenge or something, I think yeah, it puts him in a better light than the
mhm,
Shadis moment.
yeah. So yeah, there's that whole situation. There's obviously different kind of flashbacks, and the panels change to the encroaching titans within Marley and other parts of the world. And there's that one moment that really got me with those little kids. The one with
Oh
the
my
Oh my
god.
god,
hand
these
is cut
chapters
off?
were so gruesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
They
there were
were
moments there that were like so fucked up. But yeah, carry on.
Attack on Titan has always been gruesome from episode 1 with that Titan eating Aaron's mom, but like, oh my god,
mhm.
was this like terrible.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
but that was like the enemy, right? So
Yeah.
like our protagonist that we followed since he was a kid and rooting for a large portion of the story, being able to do that and it being so personalized by actually showing the kids and what he does to them, that I think is such a powerful emotion that it evokes in us. And Isama's doing that on purpose. It's like, bro, I got you to understand where this character is coming from, and now you gotta deal with the fact that this character that you want to root for is doing like these horrible things. And it's like,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that as a reader?
yeah,
I
it
also,
was.
this is so such a side thought, but I found it was cool. I always expected it to be like a line of titans rumbling and taking out whatever all of humanity, but like they literally are swimming, taking out battleships, like using their steam to burn everyone alive. They're taking out people in such crazy ways. And like the art for it, when I'm not usually a fan of Attack on Titan art. With these titans, were fantastic.
Hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
just showing off their sheer size, the angles, and everything. Just how like
Yeah,
the
like
agony
I
that
gotta
people
admit,
were in. It was beautiful.
art wise, like I was a big fan of the final arc. I think he did a great job with like what he chose to illustrate and how well he illustrated
Hmm.
it. I think it was great. And obviously, we talked about in this podcast before how much he improved from the beginning. And that makes sense because we're talking like almost 12 years here of practice.
Hmm. Yeah, those kids just got me in that moment because here they are. They want their own freedom. You know, the one is stealing money so they could hopefully help their family to escape. And then later on, you get this moment where it's kind of a flashback of Aaron as a kid, and he says, "I want freedom," and he has his hands up. And then the very next panel is like these kids getting absolutely destroyed by the Titans.
Oh.
So it's like, it's like, you know,
It's
that
such a
idea
good
of freedom.
contrast,
Oh my
man.
God.
Exactly,
Such
that
a
idea
good
of freedom.
juxtaposition.
Dude,
Is
people,
not black and
I've
white.
already seen people in chat like kind of complaining that like Aaron strayed off of his original goal by a lot, and it's like that was kind of the point they were showing here. Is like these other kids are gonna be like Aaron, or we saw that with Gabby, and we see these other kids now that were like, he's the one attacking them now. It really went full circle, and it blows my mind.
And it really forced us to ask, like, about freedom. What's the cost of freedom, right? Is it worth any cost? Is it worth, like, what he did to make he wasn't free, and we'll talk about that more, but in a lot of
Yes,
ways,
that's
he
true.
wasn't as free as we might have thought before the final chapter, but he did create a more free world for the Eldians that were left behind. But at what cost? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of not being free, it was good to learn. This is around the same time as the story with the kids about Mikasa and like her headaches themselves. Even though I would have liked to learn a bit more. I think you mentioned this before we went live, goes in about the kind of a bit more backstory with the Ackermans and with the headaches. But it was
So
good
did
to
you
know.
watch my review?
Pardon?
Did you watch my review?
No, you mentioned this
Okay.
before we went on.
All right, I mentioned it before too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just to get more about that, because Mikasa, we learned that she's not like this quote unquote slave to the sense of always jumping in for Aaron, and we get that through that flashback of the conversation, sorry, between Aaron and Zeke. But I'd like to just learn like more about that as well, because it seems to have just been dropped, and then
Man,
we just move
I
on.
could not agree with you more. I feel like the Ackerman stuff, I was left wondering about why the headaches happened, right? If Zeke even said that Aaron was lying about it being because she's resisting her Ackerman impulses, I was wondering also how Aaron could erase her memory, as the last chapter implies, when the 145th king couldn't do it to Ackermans and the Asian clan. So it's like, some stuff I don't get. Some stuff
Yes.
didn't wrap up nicely in the ending for me.
Yeah. So it was just good to get that confirmation about her headaches being unrelated.
But this is before the final chapter. What did you think about the Aaron Mikasa, like the ship working out, right? Like them, Aaron actually loving Mikasa all along. I was a fan of it from the very beginning, and we have people talked about, including in the chat, that it wasn't foreshadowed enough. But what do you think, Ray, as someone who's recently read it? Do you think that Aaron's feelings for Mikasa were foreshadowed enough up to this point?
I mean, it didn't come out of left field. And there is a moment earlier before the last chapter where Zeke and Aaron are talking, I believe, in a flashback. And he's like, "Oh, you know, she has feelings for you," or something like that. And
well, I think like Mikasa's feelings were definitely foreshadowed.
Yeah, her feelings were always obvious. I'm talking about Aaron specifically.
Aaron's not so much. There was that one flashback with them on that, like, getting carried by like horse or whatever, and they were all there, and Aaron kind of shows that he really cares about all of his friends.
Yes.
And then there was some little thing with Mikasa there as well. But other than that, I don't think it was.
So there was that. I'm gonna give my opinion now. Okay. There was that. There was also the moment where he asked, like, "What am I to you?" Which I think implied that he wanted another answer other than family, because he clearly didn't look satisfied after that answer.
I completely agree. I think it's definitely been foreshadowed in the manga these last 20 or so chapters. But like,
and obviously, if we take also into account, then it starts getting more tricky, because you could always add significance after the fact. But for example, when Mikasa was crying, looking at him, he wrapped the scarf around her when the Smiling Titan was attacking, and he's like, "I'll always be there to wrap the scarf around you." That doesn't have to be love, but I mean, come on, it at least opens the door, the possibility that it is.
I think I also just didn't care about like
Yeah, and that's
their
classic
like
Briggs.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's just me with most things. Like I just didn't care about their relationship. Like I cared about the fact that Aaron wanted to protect all of them and they had this loving relationship. But like romantically, I personally didn't care. So maybe like I just didn't look into it as much. You know, like we talked about it on the podcast. I'm just like I don't
Yeah.
care.
And it's like I think part of it was also why like he didn't want to make it too obvious because that could have almost ruined the ending. But I think we have enough not to complain that it's out of nowhere,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like because there's enough hints that it could be possible, but there's also not enough to be like, yo, 100% he loves her, and I think that's okay.
I don't
I'm
think
okay
it
with
should have been 100% he loves
Exactly,
her, you know?
I
I don't
agree
think
with
that
that.
would have been good writing, but I think it could have been hinted maybe a little bit more. Aaron, at times, like I feel like at times he purposely hid his feelings, which is good, but also at times it seemed like he just fucking didn't care. He was just like, I am gonna kill all the Titans. Oh wait, am Titan. Oh wait. Like it was like he was very goal focused and
Yeah, goal oriented for
goal
sure.
oriented, and I knew it was to protect the people he cared about and for freedom, but like sometimes it just didn't feel that way.
Yeah, and for anybody like wondering why it didn't happen more in the final season, we got that answer because he was trying to push them away on purpose
Yes.
so that they would end up being the ones to kill him, right? In a very well, actually, I'm not even gonna say the anime that it's like because Ray might want to watch that anime at some point, so I won't say it. But
Well,
yeah,
especially like he only had like 4 years left as well. It's like it's not like he could really spend a lifetime with Mikasa. He's like, all right, at this point, it's better just to push them away and create freedom for them.
yeah, and we'll talk about Emir's curse as well because clearly it's been lifted along with the Titan powers at the end of the story, right? So Reiner, Armin, they're all going to get those happy lives that Aaron wanted for them, which I think is very nice. A nice way to, at least if Aaron didn't get that perfect happy ending, at least some people got a chance at it, right? So I was a fan. I thought always that the Titan powers will cease to exist and that the Emir's curse will be lifted. I thought that for a while. I've been saying that in my chapter reviews, and I am a fan that they actually ended up carrying that out because what would be accomplished if we ended off still with Titans and like nothing solved, you know? I think it was satisfying that they ended up doing that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we could. I'm trying to think where we're at. So, did we talk yet about that whole fortress, Fort Salta, where they were predicting Aaron would go, and that's where tons of the shit ended up going down?
No, we did not mention it, but that's a good thing to mention because that's such a hilarious moment. They're like, "This is our last chance," and they take all those airships and drop those bombs on Aaron's giant Titan, and it does nothing.
Yeah.
And that's like, what did you think, Ray? Like, this was insanity to me as someone who's like, been following this for so long. What did you think when all of a sudden, like, he started summoning Zeke's Titan, then all these other Titans from the past? Like, I just went crazy when that happened. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was at first pretty confused as well, especially like summoning Zeke's Titan. We have barely gotten Zeke so far in these chapters, except kind of near the end there when he's talking with Armin. But like he's been basically invisible, and I'm wondering, like, where is he at this point? So just to see his Titan come up, which when his Titan first appeared, was he fully formed? I'm trying to think back.
When Zeke's Titan
When
appeared
Zeke's
on top
Titan
of the back?
appears,
So
pops up.
when Zeke's Titan appeared, I believe that was just that Titan being controlled by Ymir, right? Like that wasn't actually
Yes.
Zeke
Yeah.
conscious in any way.
Yes.
No,
I think
no,
he's just
no.
trapped within that world by
Yeah.
Ymir.
Yeah, so he's in the world of the paths attached to Aaron's flesh at some location, and as a result, Aaron's clearly allowed to use his power, and Amir's allowed to use his power. So yeah, that's the situation. So in theory, when they caught Armin, they would have been able to do that too, but they didn't, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean those to see those Titans confused me at first, and then even seeing those original Titans, I think were pretty cool.
That was very cool.
Were summoned. Like
Yeah,
the
it
one looks
was.
like he was from the Fantastic Four, if you remember.
Dude, And there are references to other stuff that Isayama likes to do. Like there are even Game of Thrones references with some of the Titan
Mhm.
expressions and stuff like that, going back in like the history of Attack on Titan. So yeah, like those aren't just like random lookalike things. Like he often adds those references to other works to like make it more interesting because
Yeah.
he's a nerd like us and he
Hon-
likes to add
yeah.
it.
Honestly, what I've learned from this guy so far is that nothing is random. Like nothing is just filler. Like I'm even looking at the names of certain things. I was telling you goes in about this, like Fort Salta. If you spell that backwards, it's Atlas. The world is upside down. There's another location they mention. If you spell it backwards, it's Africa. Like I feel there's so many different
That
intentional things
alone
that
that
are
you
put.
just said, that alone, that it's Atlas spelled upside down and the world is upside down, like that's fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's very
I
cool.
didn't even I didn't even look at that. I didn't even look at the Salta thing. So that's very interesting.
yeah. No, there's so many, and I feel like if I went back and reread these chapters, there'd be so many other things to catch. So
I think
mad
it's a
respect for
must
these
do at
small
this
things.
point, especially for me as well. I really, really need to reread these chapters. Like I know what happened, I have my thoughts, but like I just need to reread it and fully just comprehend it, you know?
Yeah, you're not going to catch everything the
No,
first read.
it's impossible. I was so like emotionally invested that there was certain things I super cared about and there were things I didn't care about. So like as I was reading, I feel like it was a roller coaster, and I would
Mhm.
need to like go back in with like kind of clearer eyes to really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. And yeah, definitely now that we know the final chapter, everything will take on new significance, right? As
Dude,
we
I can't wait for
reread
this to
what we're
get
doing.
animated. So like now we know what
Oh
happened. I'm
God,
probably
Yeah,
yeah.
gonna reread this portion of the manga again, but even just to see it all animated, oh my god, I can't wait.
I agree with you 100%. And that's gonna be, yeah, this upcoming winter, guys. We're gonna get part two of the final season.
That's hype.
just want to also talk about people who, in my opinion, really shine throughout these chapters. Like there are moments I think even Connie shined at times, but even someone who we haven't really talked about is it's a Peak, right? The cart titan.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like
Yes.
she
I'm
just
glad you
like
brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because again, that was a very meta moment from Isayama where all of us were thinking like, bro, she's useful for like long range missions and she can carry stuff and she's quick. But in combat, like she was never viewed as a one of the top contenders or a top fighter. But she did amazingly well and she used her power to surprise us with like she
mhm.
could again and again propel herself from her Titan and reform the Titan. And she said, I don't know how accurate this is, but she said she could keep doing that as long as it takes if she doesn't get like injured. So, wow.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
way
I did not
way
expect
new
that from
respect.
Peak.
Way new respect for the cart Titan guys. Do not sleep on it. That
Yeah,
was amazing.
I can't say we would have some cool Pike moments coming in or Peak moments coming into these chapters. I didn't
Dude,
expect
your
it.
voice just peaked right
Yeah, for
there.
real. And meanwhile, Zeke and Historia, where were you guys? Non-existent. This is so sad.
Peak in Historia? What do
No,
you
I'm
mean?
just saying like Zeke and Historia. It's like what happened to them? Meanwhile,
Yeah,
Peak comes in hard.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, Peak definitely delivered. And again, it's like as Ray said, I wasn't really voting for them to win or whatever. I was just like on the sidelines, not making an opinion because again, I didn't know how this would turn out. I didn't know everyone's uh goals. I didn't know what it would lead to, right? How much information Aaron had. So yeah, as I was watching this, I was just taking it in, but I was never like, yeah, come on, Pete, kill Aaron. Like, I
yeah.
Yeah.
was just
I
like
was
watching it and being like, okay.
yeah, I was just amazed of just how much she shined because even when she's a person, she doesn't even say that much. She's kind of in the background, but like throughout these chapters, she was just central. Like she's so agile, tons of endurance there in terms of being able to take a beating and then come back. So mad respect for her, and even someone else who obviously it's nothing like it used to be, but I did appreciate Levi, like those small moments he had as well, being able to forge Mikasa ahead near the end. And there were times where the one time he got his leg bitten and he was still like, you know, calling for the others and mentioning orders. So like mad respect for him because the shape he's in is pretty bad at this point.
Wait,
And
who are you
no, he's
talking about? Sorry, I don't know
talking
how I
about
missed
Levi.
it.
And
Levi. Okay,
obviously,
yeah.
like he didn't have a huge role like he did before, but there were small moments where he was able to shine at times. So.
Yeah, Levi definitely, and I think it makes sense because he's of an older generation. But this was definitely not Levi's arc to shine,
No,
right?
not
Like
at all. But
it was definitely like Mikasa was taken from living in his shadow a bit in the
oh
earlier
yeah, she
seasons to
yeah.
being propelled ahead of him in significance in this arc.
Just given the situation he was in, I thought this would be the absolute end of Levi. Like we would barely see anything from him, and he did have just small moments here and there, and I did appreciate how he was able to do that in the state he was in because he was in a pretty bad state going into these final chapters.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's interesting. He's one of the few that made it, right? He made it in the end, and it was a bit random seeing him with Falco and Gabby. But again, I think it symbolically represents how, like, despite the fact that they were on opposite sides in the past, now we're in a world where potentially you could forget the past and move on and come together. So
Mm-hmm.
symbolically, it made sense. But then again, it was like Gabby and Falco taking care of Levi. What the fuck? That was an interesting moment.
Yeah, yeah. There was just so much. This I don't know.
It's like
A
I don't
lot of
even
these
know what
chapters.
part we should talk about next.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
There's so
like
many.
we didn't really talk about Connie and Jean, and like they had their moments too prior to
Yes.
like
Oh
any
yeah.
contact that they had with Aaron, and I really appreciated like them talking to Reiner and being like how can I judge you for what you did for like now what we're about to do, and like now we could see where Aaron's coming from, and they're all kind of relating to each other, but like nothing, they don't know what's right, and it was so interesting.
Yeah, I mean
It was
that's the main message in Attack
yeah.
on Titan. Like there is no path that's 100% right. You got to figure out what's right for you given your priorities.
And I
And
love
for
that
Aaron,
because
yeah,
of
go
this
ahead.
now, they're starting to look at it like try to picture themselves in each other's shoes and how they would have acted. Because a lot of times you sometimes don't even have a choice as to like how you're acting. For example, Reiner didn't really have a choice in Bertolt and Annie. They were just children, right? And now we have Aaron in this situation with the founding Titan kind of being controlled and all that. And like you have Connie, it's like I hated you over what happened to Sasha, but like I didn't even think like what you were going through, and how you felt.
Yeah, exactly. When he remembers like the conversation that Aaron had with all of them in the paths before erasing their memories, like Connie straight up says like starts crying, and he obviously forgives Aaron. They all have positive perceptions of Aaron despite what he's done after they get their memories back. And he was even thinking about Connie the whole time where he said like, I'll bring back your mom, and he did. So like that's such like, and Connie was like the number one guy who was like, yo, fuck Aaron, let's kill him. Like, he's clearly siding with Zeke. And after all that, Aaron saved his mom and gave him exactly what he wanted. So that was another like wake up call for him too.
Yeah, no, I appreciated those small conversations. I don't know if you mentioned this, Briggs, even with Reiner and Jean, because obviously the last episode we talked about, they weren't on good terms at the end. I think Jean like punched out Reiner when they were trying to reconcile or at least come up with a plan. And for him to be able to like work with him and even trying to empathize with him, you could see like a personal growth there, the transfer, like an inner transformation with a lot of these characters, which I did really appreciate to go along with some really epic fights there.
Yeah, and it made it realistic because like obviously Jean hit Gabby and then he felt bad because she wasn't his intended target and everything, and that made him reassess the situation. But he needed to beat the shit out of Reiner there because it wouldn't have been realistic if they're like, oh yeah, you killed Marco, my best friend. All right, yeah, let's just move on and work together. It's like no, he needed to like beat the shit out of him, and he needed to get that out of his system before they could move beyond it.
Yeah, but the fact they could even start that empathizing process was good to see. And I don't know, even like Reiner so often within these chapters are he's just ashamed of his past and ashamed of what he's become. And he sees way past the ideology at this point that um that infiltrated his mind throughout much of the beginning chapters. So it's good to see that inner transformation with a lot of these characters.
Yeah, he
There
had a
what
great arc from like completely brainwashed
Yeah.
to like the one who's probably one of the most empathetic characters and can
Mhm.
relate to all sides and can even relate to what Aaron's doing even though he wants to stop him.
Yeah, and these chapters, like there was a bit of a dual emotional reaction to them, because in the one sense there is like optimism and hope with the empathizing. The other hand, there is this kind of like hopelessness in the sense of, you talked about it, I think, goes in the like the conflicts still remain after this whole situation happens near the end. And
Yeah,
there's
and
this moment.
I wouldn't call it hopelessness, but I
Yeah.
would call it, in a sense, realism, just personally, because it's like when Aaron and Pixis were talking, as long as there's more than one human being alive, there's going to be conflict in this world.
Mhm.
So I don't think Isayama was ever going for the approach where, oh, here's the perfect ending. Now everyone will get along, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah.
of course not. It's been said multiple times. Like, when do you think humanity will stop fighting? And it's like when there's no humans left.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I think the only thing we have is hope
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
and freedom. They're trying to create freedom, so at least they have the choice to act in these ways, right?
Exactly.
And that's another interesting thing. I remember in the previous chapters, I used to automatically assume that Aaron was going to take away all the Titan, all the different Titan like transformations. Like, I thought Armin wasn't going to be able to turn into the Colossal Titan, but he gave everyone their freedom because he's doing this for
So
their
glad you
freedom.
brought that up. So glad you brought that up, bro. Yeah, exactly. He decided he could have put a stop to all of it. He could have made it so there's no resistance, but he's like, you know what, after all his talk about valuing freedom, he's going to choose to value the freedom and the choice of those people who are closest to him, because he is doing this for them.
Yeah.
And so if they want to get killed trying to stop him, he's going to let them.
And also, you can't even say that, like, well, that was stupid on Aaron's part and stop him from achieving his goal. That was necessary for him to achieve his goal because he had
Exactly.
an end goal in mind. He could freaking see the end goal, and he was making sure that it got to that moment. You know?
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of the interesting thing about his plan, where it's different from the other anime it's always compared to,
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't just make them the heroes. He also wiped out 80% of humanity. And you might think, why, if the goal was to make them heroes? Because this way, even if people did want to attack Parody Island, they can't. They're way too injured, and that gives Parody Island more time to prepare, build its military. So, in a sense, yeah, he created his goal by making them Armin the hero, making the Island Devils the heroes, so they'll no longer be viewed as villains.
As
But
threats
also,
to some.
just in case, yeah, and just in case, he also gave them plenty of time to build their military and build their strength, so that if people wanted to ignore that, they still couldn't, because they weren't in a situation to attack Parody Island. So I do think it's interesting that Aaron prepared for what's best for the Eldian people on the island in multiple ways, not just in one way.
Man, sorry, I was just reading chat. I think half the people were mad because their Aaron Historia ship got thrown away. Get the hell out of here!
Yeah, I was never
And I
shipping
was
them.
I was sad that Historia didn't get more moments in these final chapters. Same thing with Zeke here. But like, come on, you're not gonna let a ship judge your opinion on a manga. Get out of here.
And I must, yeah, that's a good side. And I must say, like, I didn't miss Historia. I'm probably one of the few people, judging by like the chat and Briggs, but I didn't think, like, when I read it, I wasn't like, oh, I wish I had more Historia moments. I think she did shine in the end nicely. And people hating on the fact that she's with the farmer, why not? Like, why do famous people have to be with other famous people? You know what I mean? Like, if she likes the dude, she's happy living her family life with him. You know, it didn't need to be something crazy like Aaron and Historia end up having the kid.
I think that's fair. I agree.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, keep going, right?
Yeah, maybe do you want to get into that whole situation with Armin going to the path and then talking to Zeke?
So oh yeah, okay.
No,
I was
don't we have to have the group talks to Aaron, right?
yes,
Yeah,
but
that was previous.
that's
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. I thought
He's
this was.
thinking, I think,
No,
right?
no, the group they do talk with him. This is even, I think, before. This is when they're in the aircraft. I
Yeah, they
think.
haven't started fighting yet. We
Yeah.
haven't talked about it. That's why I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention
All
because
right, all right. Yeah, yeah.
they
Go
still
ahead.
have the
That was
power of their titans. Um, in order to gain my own freedom, I will take a freedom away from the world. Like, he's telling this to them. But then he also says that, like, he's giving them he's giving them their freedom to collide. Like we must fight, type of thing.
Yeah, and the reality is, in order to give my friends freedom, I'm taking away my own freedom. That's like really
Oh yeah,
what he's doing, right? Even though he's saying this, yeah.
he's saying that he has the freedom to do this, but like we all know.
All right, Ray,
Yeah, that was
continue.
powerful because he's basically letting them know, listen, the idea that you're going to come here, chase me down, and convince me to change my ways, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, it was a pretty powerful moment there because basically at that point, I thought, okay, there's no other option but to kill Eren because they're not just going to magically, convince him otherwise to go about another plan and spare humanity outside the walls. So, yeah, for me, it was like that was the point of no return for them. And obviously, Mikasa is still in the perspective of there's no way I would kill Eren. And like that's kind of starting to annoy someone like Annie. But yeah, that moment on the ship there, it was kind of for me, all right, so this is going to end with Eren's death. It's not going to be
Yeah,
this
and
kind of.
to be fair, Annie was like not even wanting to fight Eren in the first place,
No.
right? So she's actually one of the few who are like, I'm not gonna try to fight with Eren.
Yeah,
While Connie and people were like, wanting to stop him. So yeah, it's interesting because you'd think like Annie would be the first one to try to kill him, but no, she was like, yeah, there's no point. Everyone's gonna die. I'm just gonna go with Gabby and Falco, with the Azuma Bito woman.
Mhm.
And we didn't talk about it yet. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but you could finish up if you want to talk about anything else. But how crazy was the flying Titan, bro?
Oh, I know.
that was
The
super cool.
flying fucking Titan. Like we've been waiting for this for so long, and like there was hints about it where back at the beginning of this arc, the military was like, you wouldn't happen to have a flying Titan, but like, would you? Because they were talking about how the sky will be the future of warfare, and it was like a joke, but it planted the idea. And I remember back when we didn't know the ninth Titan power, everyone was like speculating, yo, like it's probably the Flying Titan. They're talking about it, they're suggesting it. And
Yeah, I remember
after it
that.
was the Warhammer Titan, like it's like, oh fuck, it wasn't flying. This is still cool. But then we actually got a flying one too, which was so satisfying. Like I'm
Yeah.
so glad he actually gave us a flying Titan.
I should have got the hint with the name too. Falco, like Falcon kind of hint there. And no, I did like that Flying Titan. Respect for him to be able to pull that off too, because he had only transformed once before, right? And it was an utter failure. Like he couldn't even control his body. I think he attacked the cart Titan. So for him to be able to pull that off was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and he felt like he could, right? Which is another like interesting
The will,
aspect of the
yeah.
Attack on Titan world. It's like sometimes you just know something will work and you can't
Mhm.
explain why. I think it's part of being connected to the paths and stuff like that as well.
And did we also, was this the first time it was revealed about the female Titan and how she
Yeah,
can
yeah,
she
I'm pretty
can
sure.
sample
Yeah.
almost like other Titan powers?
Yeah, so she eats part of other Titans and she could replicate some of
Mhm.
their powers. And then based off of that, Falco could assume that because he was created using Zeke's spinal fluid, he might have access to some of the Beast Titan's powers. And he was right because he got the fucking flying Titan. Oh, it's so hype. That's one of my favorite parts of the final season.
Yeah, no, I mean without him, they were screwed there.
Exactly. Annie never would have made it to the battlefield. And at that point, I was predicting, and Animac was as well, my brother. We were both predicting that he's gonna use the flying titan power to like he has to get it in order to fly them over to the battlefield because it wouldn't make sense for there to be like this whole uh like Titan final battle and for the Jaw Titan and the female Titan not to be present, right? They
Mhm.
needed everything. They needed that Annie meets up with her dad moment, which I like. Again, Annie's not my favorite character, but it was very powerful for me the fact that she finally met up with her dad after so long because that was her goal
Yeah.
from day one.
Yeah, it was nice to see those moments. And even those parents who we saw with those flashbacks were so hard on their kids, like Reiner's mother, and they were just like admitting how they were wrong, admitting how their ideology had made them like horrible parents. And there's one part I think they say like we brought the devil upon us, like our hatred of
Exactly.
others brought this devil upon us. Which at this point, yeah, like Aaron in this new like Titan appearance, he looks like a legitimate devil
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
long hair.
He's become the devil of the earth, and he's become everything everyone fears, right? And he's the perfect scapegoat to kind of put all the hatred and fear onto himself. And that's why I think it's a cool plan that makes sense, where everyone then views people who beat him as their saviors, like Armin and like Mikasa and like
Mhm.
uh, Falco and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the more he's a devil and the more people hate him, the more effective this plan will be.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
What else do we have to discuss? Obviously,
But
there's
at
the
the,
kiss, but maybe we didn't
at
get
the
to
end
it
of
yet.
the day, they're still gonna like. I guess it does give Eldians much time to like catch up in technology, and now they're gonna have more of an advantage, so they won't be attacked and then reviewed as heroes. But at the end of the day, people are still gonna fear Eldians because of these occurrences. The fact that they,
I don't
like,
know, man. I don't know, because they can't turn to Titans anymore, and
yeah, that's true.
eventually, the next generation will stop believing that Titans were even a thing. That will
As
be like
long
a myth.
as long as
And
people don't like
yeah,
are like hatred, wasn't it the whole thing kind of to end this cycle of hatred a little bit? It's
yes,
like I feel like
yes,
how are you gonna end the cycle of hatred with a freaking genocide?
yeah, but it's because the people
At the very
stopped
least,
him,
it's like,
right?
oh, the people
They
that stopped them
saved
are
him.
now heroes and they can't turn into Titans anymore. I got it. I got
Yes,
it.
I think like again, this is the best
Humanity will
ending
always
for
be
the
fighting. It's not like,
Eldians.
oh, there's going to be no war from this point onwards. Humanity is always
Yeah,
going to be fighting.
exactly. I agree with that. But what Aaron was, his main goal was not to make the world a better place.
Hmm.
His main goal was to make it a better place for Eldians.
Yeah,
And to me, like he succeeded in doing that
that's true.
because now they have the best possible chance, not guarantee, but the best possible chance of continuing on to survive.
It's true. He
A
was
chance that
focused
they
on just
just didn't
protecting
have
the people
before.
he cared about and Eldians. So
Yeah, and he was
he definitely
unapologetic
achieved that.
about that. Yeah. And that's why I think everyone discussing Aaron's character has to consider like yeah, this is worse situation ending for the world at large than if Aaron didn't do it, but Aaron's goal was obviously very skewed towards the Eldians.
That's so funny. I was thinking the same thing. Someone in chat's like, all right, so just kill everyone else then. You're able to kill 80%. Just finish it off. GG.
Yeah. But again, that's what almost like um he's not I don't know the exact definition of
Oh no,
genocide,
that's
but
too morally
it's
past his boundaries.
it's
Like
to wipe out.
I can't do the last 20%. The first 80% was fine,
Yeah,
easy, no
no,
problem. But
I know what you're saying, but he didn't. His intention was not to wipe out every other race because he knew he'd be stopped, right? So, in
he
theory, he
allowed
left
them to
all the
stop him.
races
It was his
alive.
plan. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So, like he left all races alive. It's just they're very fewer numbers, right?
Mhm.
No, I know what you mean, Breeze. It's like kill off the last 20%. Oh, that's so beneath me, man. Like,
Yeah.
we'll only do the 80%. That's the classy way to go. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
for this is like a kind of a start over. While if he like wiped out every race besides the Eldians, then he just wiped out all those races, right?
Mhm.
So it would, yeah. Again, not not defending his actions, and obviously 80% is fucking insane, but I do think it's significant that he left 20% alive. And even if he didn't, even if he wiped out 100%, like I said, there will be internal fighting within the Eldian population.
100%.
So that
I
wouldn't solve
love
the problem
I
either.
loved that line when one of the commanders asked Erwin, "When do you think how do you think humanity could have peace or could stop fighting when there's no humans left?" Like like not even
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
your enemy side, including your own side.
No, and it's true. And we saw that firsthand during the Kenny Ripper arc, right? When Kenny and the people within the walls were actually trying to attack the Survey Corps. So nobody can make the argument that wiping out the entire world would have led to peace for the Eldians.
Someone said, "How many of the remaining 20% are Eldians?" I thought the 20% that was remaining weren't Eldians. They're saying 20% of everyone else was left.
Yeah, I don't think it's that important, but I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
all that
so
matters is that there's clearly
There's
humanity
clearly
outside the
now
walls still exists.
exactly.
At
And
least 10 people.
at least that'd be my yeah, it's way less outside the walls than there used to be, and also they're not strong enough to retaliate against the Eldians anytime soon. Are we on to the kiss yet, or what?
Dude,
Well,
can I just say one
so
thing? That motherfucker who tweeted me on Twitter sent me the screenshot from chapter 130, the final panel, with Mikasa kissing Aaron's head. He
Hey
spammed
man.
this screenshot at me. I just want to say I hate
So
you.
what was the context? Did he actually mean to be a dick, or was he just
I
like
don't know. I
interested in
didn't
your
message him
opinion?
about it. I just fucking like I saw it and was pissed off.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like I had known that it was gonna get to this direction, but I just didn't want to know for sure, you know. And I
Yeah.
guess I didn't know for sure from a single panel, but I just wanted it to be known. I couldn't.
I know.
For the
It
longest
could
time,
be
I
a
couldn't say
dream, it
what
could
was
be
spoiled for me. This was the panel that was spoiled for me.
yeah, it couldn't be like it could have been a dream, it could have been something else. Like did you see the yeah, but you saw like the head cut off and everything like that, right?
Yep.
and it would
Yeah,
have been
so
Emir in the background, right?
I mean at the end of the day, you really don't know what the fuck that
Yeah, it's
means.
Attack on Titan.
But
That could be
but
anything, dude.
still but still that's probably like a top 3 most important moments
Yeah.
in the entire series.
Like this has nothing. Like this was way worse than getting spoiled. Dumbledore dying.
No, Dumbledore.
Dumbledore dies. Sorry to break it to you guys. Yeah, I know. My apologies.
Damn.
Ray, so much for the Harry Potter version.
I
eh?
know I was gonna go.
Oh god damn it.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, Ray. So you wanted to talk about something besides that?
Just before that, the Zeke and Armin moment. within
Yeah,
the
that's
past,
actually I think one of my favorite moments in the
I
entire
was gonna
story.
say me too, because I love that idea of, first of all, at this point Zeke is, I don't know a better word to put it, but like a nihilist. Like he's just lost that why. He's just looking down all the time. He doesn't have that will like he had before. And then when Armin gets the leaf and then the baseball comes, and it's like it's more about those small moments instead of being obsessed with those huge master plans like this whole show is about, you know, being obsessed with these big grand narratives to go and fight the other. Like that's just a really powerful moment that stuck with me, because it was like the first time you just get the focus on, like, again, slowing life down, and those micro moments, a lot of times those are the most powerful things.
That's what
That
life's all about. Yeah.
absolutely. So I really
And
like that. And then Zeke coming out and actually seeing like the world for almost the first time. That was a beautiful
yes,
moment.
oh man, I gotta admit that to me, like solidify this as a masterpiece. That scene, and like when they were talking about the life and Zeke turning around, and instead of always focusing on the negative, which is what he used to do, he's like, you know what? I wouldn't mind doing it all over again if we got to play catch again. And like finally seeing that life is worth living, and for the first time seeing that, God, look at the potential, look at the beauty, and then he accepts his death because he took that privilege away from many others. And that shift in his consciousness from living is a curse to a miracle. Oh my God.
I
That
love
was
that, yeah.
such a beautiful transformation.
Because at that moment, in a way, he's ahead of a lot of other characters thinking, even though it's just a really brief moment. Like, because Levi, you could tell one of his prime missions in life is to kill Zeke.
Kill
And
Zeke,
that's why
yeah.
he's just like, kill Zeke, kill Zeke. And right when he pops out, it's like, all right, Levi, here I am, come and kill me.
Dude, Levi's face was so confused.
Yo,
That was
if
such a
Levi
funny
killed
moment.
Zeke in his other 2 attempts, this never could have happened.
Man, I just feel so I just feel like this is perfect. Like the whole time Levi was trying to kill Zeke, and then at the end Zeke presents himself and Levi is so unsatisfied with the murder.
Yeah, that was great.
His face is so confused, and it's such an Isayama like twist where it's like you think you want one thing, and then when you finally get it, it's like, bro, what the fuck am I doing?
Yes.
Like, this is not important. This is not what it's about. So I thought that was a beautiful moment, and those were 2 of the smartest characters, probably the 2 smartest characters left alive at that point were Zeke and Armin, like intelligence wise. So you knew something crazy was going to happen when those 2 finally came in for a extended conversation. Like you knew there was some philosophy about to be spit when they came together, and I was not disappointed at all. It was an amazing, amazing moment, possibly my top moment in Attack on Titan.
Yeah, I just loved it because it was so different from a lot of the philosophy of the show from before about these huge, big journeys we have to go on, the spectacle of things with the horses. And now it's all about the small things. He says, like, the repetition of throwing the ball back and forth, those are the moments that could keep us going in life, not these huge, grand narratives that push us forward. So I really like that.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. Where else now? Where are we on to?
I mean, we could get to that very important scene when they end up coming back, and I'm trying to think. I think at first, isn't there like an explosion, and they think that Eren is dead or possibly dead, and that creature, that centipede creature, which we'd even
Okay.
talk about that origin story.
Yeah,
as well,
man, like again, every time we talk about Attack on Titan, like I'm shocked by how much we cover in like one podcast
know,
episode.
that
You're right.
whole
You're right.
story.
So that stuff that Mir did, right? She put the explosives around Eren's neck, and then Armin did the explosion, right? The
Yeah.
Colossal Titan explosion. Or no, was that then? Or was it first the explosion was set off, and then the centipede creature escaped, and then later Armin did his explosion?
I think Armin's explosion was secondary.
Yeah, okay. And so that was crazy. Yeah. So what did you think? I thought as soon as we got Emir's backstory, and we learned that like that weird creature attached to her and gave her Titan powers, I'm like, yo, there's more to this creature than we thought. Like, this is gonna be significant down the line. And yeah, so when Gabby identified that as the enemy, I'm like, fuck, this should make sense. So how did you feel about that whole twist that this creature is like a living thing and trying, just like every other creature,
Yes.
to ensure its survival?
And Zeke calls it life too when he's talking to Armin. Doesn't he call it like the first kind of centipede?
I don't know how. Again, I don't know how like literally you want to take that, but yeah,
but just the idea of life being the enemy at this
exactly
moment is interesting.
And Zeke's philosophy, like, it changed obviously, and I like the change, but like it was interesting even before the change where I disagreed with what he was saying. It was interesting to consider, and like, yeah, why if this constant need to live at all costs, reproduce at all costs, leads to just hatred, destruction, death, suffering, like, why do it? It was an interesting, thought-provoking idea, even if you don't ultimately agree with it.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we learned about that was through this creature that's also think about all the destruction and horror that it caused, but it was just incidentally because it was just trying to survive like anything else.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's very like Darwinian in that sense of.
Yeah, it's funny that like I feel like people were going like when they were doing theories about this centipede, they had so many different roots for it, and it just makes so much sense for it to be just evolution and survival.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and once again, Attack on Titan fucks with our like point of view and broadens like the scope by pointing out that this huge big final enemy is just its own trying to survive, and again, there's no evil. There's just like people struggling to survive, multiply, just like evolution intended. So you can't even say this creature is the bad guy. It's just like an animal trying to survive.
Yeah, and applying it to also like the Eldian situation, like in a Darwinian way. Again, if Eren doesn't necessarily do what he does, they'll just be wiped out. So in order for their race to survive, they have to destroy other races, no matter how cruel that sounds. And in nature, the same thing happens. So, yeah, it makes things a lot more complicated, that whole story about the centipede thing. But, yeah, we get that situation. And then, obviously, the thing with Mikasa stepping in and being helped by Levi to...
So let's first discuss that dream.
Set it up.
That dream that she has, right? Do you remember that? Where she has that vision of her and Eren growing old together?
Yeah, is that when he says, like, we only have 4 more years or something, and to not like you don't have to remember me or something.
Exactly. So yeah, so that was like what could have been if back when he asked like Mikasa, "What am I to you?" Instead of family, she said, "You're the man that I love." Potentially, this is like the route that could have led to, and
Hmm.
they're like happy ending. So for Mikasa, that's kind of what she wanted, but at the same time, it was far from a perfect ending because like the war is still raging. Eldian people are probably still gonna die, and Armin, they just left Armin to fucking like look for them and do his own thing. So it was interesting. It was like showing what could have been, but at the same time, it wasn't really a satisfying ending because the world was ending, right? Eldians
Yeah.
are going to be extinct. Eren would not have been happy with that ending, even if he loved Mikasa.
It just shows that there was very few options and there was no right answer, right?
And it could be a way of Eren like communicating with her through the paths, then communicating through to each other and sharing his true feelings,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that he's been putting up this wall the whole time.
Yeah, I
And then
agree.
after that vision, Mikasa finally seems to understand what's going on and is happy. And then moves in for the kill and knows exactly where Eren is, as if he gave her the information himself because she knew exactly where he was in the mouth of the
Hmm.
giant titan, which it's like, how would you know that otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That vision was pretty powerful. Like, did you mention as well with the scarf how he says something like one last promise to throw away the scarf, and then
Yeah,
she wants to
and
keep
I
it.
like that. Some people are gonna like
I think it's
complain that
cheesy. Yeah.
Mikasa is just like too too in love with Eren or whatever, or like a slave to him. But no, like
But
Eren straight
it's
up told her, like, hey, like forget about me, do that, let go of the love. And she's like, no. So she's exercising free will. And I love the fact that the way she's doing it is by continuing to love him and not let go of him. And that's symbolically reinforced by the scarf. And I fucking love that. Maybe I'm just like a cheesy
especially
romantic, but I love that.
especially considering the bluff that Aaron pulled where he told Mikasa that like you have no free will. It's literally like your origins. Like
Hmm.
because of your race, you're like gonna be a slave to me and you're forced to kind of protect me no matter what. And it was a huge bluff, and I love that ended up being a bluff or whatever. And now because it's exercising your free will in this way, it was so good.
Yes, it was so good. And like I said, as soon as she didn't stop Armin from punching him that second time, that to me was clear that, she obviously doesn't need to protect him. She can
Yes.
obviously let him be injured. So right away it was clear that that was bullshit to me. But yeah, here she proves it once again that she's not brainwashed by actually killing him and continuing to love him. So yeah, that was such a again, I say it's romantic. People are like, yo, how the fuck's that romantic? Like she kisses his severed head. But like, yo, romance is always accompanied by death. Think of Romeo and Juliet. Those guys were making out while they thought the other was dead all the time. So like it's nothing new in romance to have romance that transcends death, so to speak.
What do you mean? Aaron's not dead. He got reincarnated as a bird.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. We'll get to that.
Oh,
uh,
No, I mean interesting fucking shit. But let's what do you want to discuss next, Ray?
yeah. I mean that specific panel was interesting too because you have Emir in the background
Yeah,
and
smiling, right?
she's smiling, and it's almost yeah. Because I'm trying to think, when do we learn? I think it's the last episode we learn about the situation with Emir and how she is madly in love with Fritz, which is a real kind of screwed up situation as well. But yeah, it's interesting to see her in the background smiling, almost like it's okay to kind of cut. I don't know. How would you interpret her in the
Yeah, so
background?
this is
Is it?
it's difficult to interpret, and I gave it my best shot in the chapter review. But the way I take it is, so you don't have to be a slave to your love in the sense that just like Mikasa could kill the person she loves, right? Emir can let go of not following the
Mhm.
orders given to her by King Fritz
Yeah, Fritz.
and still continue to love him. So it's not
Hmm.
like you love someone, so you need to be their slave and do
Obey
exactly what they tell
everything.
you to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
Exactly. So Mikasa showed her that through her actions, and thus she smiled and was ready to release the world of the paths and
Yeah.
accept death and stop following King Fritz's orders. And that is possibly what led to the end of the centipede creature and what led to the end of the world of the paths and allowed people like Eren and Grisha and all of them who weren't released yet. They were still in the world of the paths, even though they were dead, to finally be released and then possibly be reincarnated, as happens in anime. Reincarnation is much more popular in Japan in fiction than it is in the West, where in the West it's more like what the fuck if you're
Yeah.
not used to that, right?
Yeah, because we get that. I think it's a seagull, right? Make a few appearances there, like both near the end, and then even beforehand when Armin's talking to Annie on the I forget where they're on the ship there, and the seagull comes and they pause and just look at it. So yeah, it is. I don't know.
There's
I,
all
I
this
could see
bird
people saying as
imagery.
a theory. Yeah.
There's all this bird imagery throughout, and it gains new significance by this ending scene. And like, in my opinion, it's open to interpretation. So it could just be Mikasa being reminded of Eren.
Hmm.
It could be Eren's like somehow physical manifestation in the real world, or it could be like a straight up reincarnation. He's finally free and not bogged down by humanity, not bogged down by walls, right? Birds are the freest creature. They've been so represented throughout. While Falco was reaching out for a bird in the beginning of the arc on the battlefield, he was like, it symbolized freedom away from these human warfare and stuff like that. So either way, I'm pretty satisfied with the ending, with that final panel, even though it wasn't what we expected it to be. But I
Um,
think you don't need to hate the reincarnation thing. You don't have to accept that as the literal
it doesn't need to be literal.
reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess I'm guessing the reason why people are so kind of pissed off at the ending is the whole thing with Eren and Mikasa, and even like the thing I had with Armin at the end too is during that. I guess they're meeting at the paths, right, when they're younger, near
Yes.
the
So
beginning of the
they
last
do
chapter.
it. They're meeting through the paths, and they do it as if they're like children talking to each other. Which
Yeah,
I liked that this was the approach. How I feel about the chapter is different.
yeah.
Anyway, continue.
No, I mean, when he starts talking about what he has to do or what he's done, I guess, about killing 80% of the population, Armin is just like, I don't want to say nonchalant, but he doesn't persist about like, all right, so why specifically do you want to do that? Or is there
Well,
another
it's already
option?
been done. It's like you killed 80% during the
Oh,
rumbling.
okay. So yeah, technically, yeah, it's already
So
happened.
it's all at the same time. Like, Aaron does tell him, you'll like next time we see each other, we'll be trying to kill each other. So it implies this is happening before, but at the same time, it's like already a foregone
Yeah,
conclusion. Yeah.
Mm,
because the paths exist outside of time,
that's
right?
true.
So it's
Yeah.
Because it
just
was,
yeah,
I just assumed that it already had happened, that where majority had been killed, and this Aaron hadn't. I guess Aaron hadn't, or was it like in the moments of Aaron's death, because they said 80% of humanity was killed during the rumbling. But I guess yeah, this is outside of time, so that doesn't even
Yeah,
matter.
exactly. So he already knows what's gonna happen, even though this conversation is happening before that. And honestly, like, I love time travel stuff, but it does get confusing in Attack on Titan. Like, you can't deny that. It's not like
mhm.
perfectly explained. Hooky Wookie, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs. Yeah, but what do you guys think about it?
I honestly think they did a good job with the whole time travel thing. 'Cause it's not really like in this conversation. Like there's no rules to it. It's just outside of time, and I think it makes it a lot simpler this way.
And another interesting thing is how Aaron explains that he almost doesn't have control of himself anymore, because when he awakens to the founding Titan power, it's almost like he becomes this godlike being where when when Bertolt wasn't supposed to die, so he had to change the Titan to go for his mom. But I don't think that should be taken as Aaron of his own free will doing that. I think that's him needing to being this godlike creature, fused with this godlike creature, and having to uh like ensure a specific foregone conclusion.
I think
And that, yeah, go
ironically,
ahead.
Eren wanted freedom the entire time, and he had none. I think Eren had no freedom, and he just tried to create freedom for the people he cared about and Eldians and the rest of
Exactly.
humanity.
I agree with
He had
that.
no freedom. He was
Yeah.
chasing the end goal, this desired result that he foresaw from the beginning. So he just had to make sure that that result happened in order to
He
create
was
freedom
a
for everyone.
slave. He was a slave for his friends getting freedom.
And
Like, right?
also,
So
yes, and
that's
also,
that's the
how
interesting thing.
crazy was that moment where you realized he had to fucking kill his own mother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like again, that's a port that's like open to interpretation, and some people hated that concept because it's like, why the fuck did Aaron get angry and stuff at the others for killing his mother when he killed his mother? But again, it's
But
like
that self
he's a
didn't know it.
godlike being at
It,
exactly, yeah. It's
it
like
was the
this.
future self, and he's not gonna let his past self know. I guess they're. That's actually a little bit confusing now that I think
It
about
is
it.
it is a bit confusing, but I mean
Because
it's interesting.
Aaron's future self causes his father to kill those children. Meanwhile, his previous self is mad at his father for doing it. So clearly, he is hiding memories from his previous self. I think
Yeah,
that's
to
interesting. So it's like he's letting himself react to things naturally in order to receive a specific outcome.
Well, yeah. And I was gonna say, doesn't he at one point in the last chapter mention his memories at this point are just mashed up, and he has trouble?
yes, because everything is existing at the same time.
Yeah,
So like past, present, future, it's all existing at once. So he really is like trapped in this like
Yeah,
all time, like a godlike being, and he can't really
yeah,
do anything about it. He even says that he doesn't know why, but he wanted to flatten the earth, even if they didn't stop him. And he wanted to like create a new earth. So it's like
that
something is driving him that he can't even explain.
his rationale is inconsistent. Like it's
Might be the attack Titan. I don't
yeah,
know the force of that always moving forward, but clearly it's ironic when Grisha tells him when he was a baby, Aaron, you are free. That is the most like ironic statement
yeah.
because he throughout has been arguably the least free out of everybody.
hmm
And originally, Ray, like you don't know this, but we were given that panel of Grisha holding the baby, but it was just like a random person holding a baby from our point of view, and we were told that that will be like that's considered the final panel of Attack on Titan at the time, and so we were thinking it's going to be this hopeful message of like Aaron succeeding and freeing the next generation. And this
hmm
baby represents the next generation, but it was actually this deeply ironic statement that Aaron is free, even though he wasn't
yeah.
until he died. Right? That's a good point too.
He's only free
That's
until he
brought up in
dies.
the chat because yeah, I mean he is freed in death, and especially if you take on like the bird reincarnation metaphor and how humanity can't escape conflict, you're finally within this pure freedom area.
Hmm. Man, I'm just really thinking about this whole time thing. I remember people were complaining to me in my chat because obviously I hadn't read the last 10 chapters, but I had read the parts prior with him and Zeke and him going back with his father or going back and influencing his father's decisions and all that. And the more I think about it, it's like I do think the initial Aaron thought he had free will and was thinking his own thoughts and was upset with his father and was upset about his mother dying and didn't know that future Aaron was controlling these things because it wasn't until the moment that he
Oh
made
yeah, as a
it wasn't
kid,
until the moment that he made contact with Zeke in that other path's world that he was able to control time. Maybe he knew that something was controlling it later, or at least his father did. But his previous self didn't know. It was maybe he was being controlled, but he didn't know that, right?
yeah, when
I
his
had to
mom
really
was killed for
rationalize
sure.
myself there not to hate this time travel thing.
No, yeah,
I had to
for
think about that a lot.
when his mom, yeah, was killed, but that version of Aaron definitely had no idea what the fuck was
Yeah,
coming.
he didn't know about the future.
He
At
was
that
just a
point,
kid who lost his mom.
his future self had already kind of been meddling with things, but his current self had no concept.
Yeah,
hmm
exactly.
Past self,
No,
of
like
course.
it's fucking interesting. It's also like we said, it is rushed. And another thing that kind of seemed random was we just didn't see the centipede creature again. You know, it's just like assumed off screen. It was solved. It disappeared. But like
What do you
there
mean?
wasn't
We're
there
getting
wasn't
we're getting
this.
Attack on Titan Shippuden. with
Yeah,
the
imagine.
centipede's gonna come back. Oh wait, all the 80% that you
Imagine. Oh
killed
my
doesn't
god,
matter.
how much would that ruin this fucking
That would suck.
series?
That would really suck. And
But no, yeah, that
what I
was
imagine is now it's like the Barlayans that are left are now going to be infected by that centipede, and then they become the Titans, and just reverse
dear
ship it in
God,
season 2.
bro.
Oh my god.
This would be so
No,
bad.
never in a million
And
years.
and it's like not that far away from what some series do, so that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I mean,
But no, yeah, that's the only thing. Like, I also felt like it's weird that the finality of the battle was handled off screen, right? But again, that all part of that, the not explaining the Ackerman how he could make Mikasa forget, all of that kind of jumbled up together, made for a rushed ending, in my opinion, which which is like one of the things that I will say. I love the series overall, but definitely the ending felt rushed, and there was. It's okay to leave some answers open ended, but I feel like there were too many here.
Hmm.
I feel like the final fight could have been a little bit better done as well. Like towards the end of it, like I like the whole flashbacks and the cutting back and forth type of thing. And I do need to see it animated too. I guess I think I'll appreciate the final fight more once it's animated.
For sure, for sure.
Because it
It's gonna
felt
be
rushed.
crazy
It felt very
with the
rushed to
color,
me.
with the music. We'll see if they take more time within the anime, hopefully. And it's funny, like there's this one quote that the centipede was the one piece and the friends we made along the
That's
way.
hilarious.
Oh man, yeah. That's a One Piece reference, Ray, that you
I
don't have to
know.
worry
I'll
about.
just nod and say I agree.
Yeah.
As you should.
Uh,
No I'm kidding. Man,
yeah, is there anything else left out?
imagine Ray reading One Piece. 1,000 chapters, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely possible, and with Ray's work ethic, like the dude could definitely do it. Animac did it relatively recently, right?
Mhm.
Like this year, or like within the last 365 days is
Yeah,
what I
but
mean.
Animac loves anime and it's his job.
Yo, yeah, I guess fair enough. That is true, but I do think Ray would actually do it if called upon to do it.
Fair enough.
But we do have a One Piece version for now, so we'll leave that. We'll leave that for now. Ray, anything else you wanted to cover before we call it a day and end off the Attack on Titan portion of the anime version?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's looking back, there's obviously things we didn't fully get to, which I think is fine. There's just so much here, especially at the end. But I'm okay with the whole story ending, the way it did, with some things not being answered, because I feel like this whole story was all about that. It was about ambiguity at
No,
times. It was
I
about
totally
not
agree
getting
with that.
everything.
I don't
So,
need everything answered. Just
no,
like
yeah,
some blatant things like
yeah,
the erasing her memories, like how,
yeah.
But some stuff like what's gonna happen with the world, I'm totally cool with that not
Or
being
even,
answered.
or
Yeah.
even like that whole relationship with Yelena and Aaron. Like, how much was it Yelena over Aaron? Or sorry, one of Emir. I don't know why I said Yelena.
Yeah, you gave
Amir.
Yelena a lot
Yeah,
of
like, what is he
significance
talking
there.
about? No, Amir. Like that whole situation there about, how much was
Her
it
influence, how
him,
much was
or how much.
Aaron's. I
So
agree with
I'm
that
fine
too.
with
Yeah.
it just leaving the way it is, and I think I need some time away from it, and then I'll probably go back to it and think through some of these things. But
Definitely
yeah, I
a
mean,
ride though.
I
Quite the trip.
I think I
absolutely.
need to do that as well because people are asking in chat like, where is Attack on Titan in like your all-time anime slash manga? Where is Eren for your favorite like for main characters in your list? It's like I need to reconsume this to even do it. I feel like at one point I was like, Eren's gonna be one of the greatest MCs of all time. And I think with the ending, I don't think he is, but he's definitely up there. He's definitely
Yeah.
still amazing.
And I mean, we didn't discuss some stuff that I just want to just get off the bat that I did enjoy. I did enjoy the idea that like now Armin and Annie could potentially get shipped because I shipped them for a long time. I did like the Falco and Gabby having their happy ending. I loved their hug at the end of it,
Mhm.
their energetic hug. And I always expected them to be like kind of represent the next generation that moves beyond the Titan curse. And so I liked seeing that as well. And yeah, there were moments that some people will question Aaron for, like when he has that bro talk with Armin and saying to him, like, I don't want Mikasa to be with another man. I want her to just love me. But he tells him not to tell her that. He's just being honest. And some people will say, oh man, he went from badass to pathetic. But man, that's just, that he's human. And I think
Yeah,
we needed that human side of him because this last arc he was completely dehumanized. We didn't know what the fuck was going on. And so we needed that like human side to him to actually get a sense of his character again.
Yeah, I totally agree. It shows he's just like anyone else. And
It shows how flawed he is as well. How he didn't have the perfect answer. Although I must say, when I first got the scene with Aaron and his father and him controlling that, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna be one of the greatest main characters. I don't even know. I can't even call him a protagonist or an antagonist. I don't even know what he was.
He is a protagonist.
He is a
I
protagonist,
definitely think
of
he's a
course.
protagonist.
He could have been one of the greatest protagonists of all time. And I'm like, with this ending, he's much more. Like, I think it was good that they kind of showed him to be very flawed. I just wish it was. I don't know. I don't know if I'm super happy.
Yeah, exactly, and that's okay. Like, just because it's like makes sense that he'd be like that, it doesn't mean he makes it makes him less badass, right? It makes him less like of a badass. Like, I call the shots. It's like, no, you're like everyone else, and you're kind of a slave to what's going on here, which kind of sucks.
He's even more of a slave than everyone else.
Yeah, so there's that. I did think that Armin, after everything he did, like killing Survey Corps members and all of that, the fact that he heard Aaron say 80% of humanity will die, and he kind of like got over it in the conversation pretty quick. He made a fucking shocked face, but he got over it pretty quick. And then later he punches and freaks out at Aaron again over the Mikasa thing. It's like, what the fuck? Armin, what are you doing?
Armin doesn't give a fuck about anyone but Mikasa and Annie.
Yeah, so Armin's character is an enigma to me still. But I mean, we are all conflicting. We all have flawed, conflicting desires. Aaron didn't want to die, but at the same time, he knew that he had to. He has no right to live after taking all those lives. It needs to die for the plan. But at the same time, he wasn't looking forward to dying. He was human, right? So I think that's what Attack on Titan is about. It's like there's no perfect character. There's no perfect solutions. We just got to do the best that we can with the cards we've been dealt, right? And try to learn from the past and create a better future, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, great way to put it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ray, for coming on and joining us. We do plan to have Ray on again to be a virgin for some other anime down the line.
1000%. This was awesome, man. Thank you so much, Ray.
I appreciate it, guys. No, this is great because it forces me to watch great anime, but also at this point read great manga as well.
Hell yeah!
So if you guys
it's a great
love
excuse to get through Attack on Titan.
Yeah, if you guys love Ray, you can always catch him on the Dragon Ball Virgin podcast. That's still ongoing, and we just started Dragon Ball Super, so you can check him out there. And remember, we're going to be covering ReZero, not next week, but the week after that. And Too Spooky is going to be joining us. Too Spooky is a legend, and I can't wait for that. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.
Bang!